All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode. This is episode number 11, and normally I would say College Cinema Podcast, but we actually decided to just change it up and go with a whole new name now. We're gonna change it up to the Movie Mates Podcast. So this is now episode 11 of the Movie Mates Podcast, and I just want to get that started. And I chose the movie this week, and it was 1917, the war movie
Yes.
that came out last year. I believe it was the end of last year.
Yep.
And I had never seen it before. I know, Greg, you said you had never seen it before as well.
I had not. No.
Yeah. And then Connor, you said you had seen it before.
Well, I have seen it before, but I walked in like 10 minutes late, so I haven't seen like the first like 5 or 10 minutes before.
Oh, okay.
So that was a new experience.
Yeah, first few minutes was a new experience. All right. I mean, I guess we can kind of just get started by talking about those first few minutes. And just what that experience was like for you. I mean, Connor, do you want to talk about how the movie, how it started? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean,
right off the bat.
Since I hadn't seen the beginning before, but I had seen the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
When the movie starts and they're like sitting up against the tree and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that went through my mind is like, oh, he sits up against a tree at the end of the movie.
Mm.
Like that's the first thing I thought of. Because I've already seen this movie before, right?
Okay.
I was thinking for a second. I was thinking this is like you're talking about the first time you saw it, and I was like,
no, not the first time, because I hadn't seen the beginning before, but that was interesting to see that because then it was easy for me to put two and two together, and I was like, oh, I see what you did there, like filmmakers,
Yeah.
But then basically they just get called to talk to the general, or one of them gets called, and he just takes his buddy with him.
Yeah. I caught on to that later.
Yeah, he mentioned that later.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a pretty simple premise that, they're just called to the general because one of them has a brother in this other battalion and he's good with maps and he's supposed to deliver a message. The telephone lines have been cut.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they just gave him a free choice of who to choose. They didn't send him with a really skilled person in combat or something.
I mean, I think that that's a good point, but I think that the point was any soldier would be as good as the next one in their minds, and they might as well have him choose because he's the one who's good at maps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also they wouldn't want to risk losing one of their best soldiers in combat in just kind of a mission where they have to be very stealthy. Yeah,
it's interesting though because it's the question of what are they willing to risk in order to save these men? You know what I mean? It's because
help the
sure. I mean, it was also just I liked. Sorry, Connor. I liked how just how human the whole movie was, in the sense of I feel like a lot of the times you could see yourself or see a normal person doing a lot of the similar things that they did, right off the bat, just a lot of the walking. I know we talked about this just before we started recording. Just a lot of them, they're just walking.
That's a lot of the movie too. For a war movie, there's it's not big battles for most of it, and it's not
which I'm very okay with, by the way. I don't know about you guys, but I was okay with that. But I don't know. I liked it. And I remember pointing out, we'll get to a couple other scenes later, but I remember seeing one specific scene where they're going. Do you remember when they're going through that underground bunker that the Germans had built? And they see, I think, was it Schofield? Was Schofield? I forget what his name was.
Yeah, Schofield.
I think it's
a C sound, I think. Yeah.
Schofield, he saw the picture of a German soldier's family. Yeah, and I just little stuff like that, just these guys are missing their families too, and so I don't know. I just liked a lot of the little stuff like that.
Yeah. It was a more personal story, even though it was about saving a lot of people.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely.
More personal than it could have been.
I mean, Greg, did you have any thoughts at the beginning, the first few minutes?
No, although, well, the first thing, of course, I thought was, of course, that's Tommen from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I think that, from the get-go, that the acting was, quite superb, I thought.
Yeah.
Just even, especially the facial expressions, when running, which they were probably very real, because that stuff was probably very heavy, what they're wearing and carrying. So they're probably facial expressions. But also Colin Firth, I'm a huge Colin Firth fan.
Yeah, he had a little part in there at the beginning.
Yeah, a little cameo, pretty much. But I thought it was. Yeah, I agree with all your points.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say that because Greg brought up the acting, and I thought that the two main actors did a really good job of like portraying their characters like differently. Like one of them was way
Yes.
more like young and naive, and the other one was kind of like, you know, a little bit battle hardened, but he wasn't like the kind of cliche kind of like battle hardened character that just wouldn't talk about anything.
Like
It was
emotionless.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, he would like, you could see he had emotions, but he was just you know, he was just more reserved, and he was
Sure.
yeah. And I just like how they kind of showed through their like facial expressions and like the way they talked to each other, like how they had different outlooks on what they were like, they're both their mission specifically, and like kind of like they're both their feelings on war in general were different, which I thought was kind of cool, you know.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say real quick that I like very much agree with Greg, and that the facial expressions, especially like throughout the movie, like were just, I thought they were fantastic. Like at the beginning, you could see I'm just gonna it was what Blake was his last, right? Was his
Yeah,
last
Blake,
name.
yeah.
But he, like, you could see him go through. I want to call him Tommen. But you could see him go through all like the different like when he facial expressions of like, or like feel. You could see his feelings. Like you could see him like feel like hopeless. Like you'd see him feel hope.
Yeah.
Like in turn when he was walking to like when he got the mission and like he had to go
When he
save his brother.
realizes that his brother's
Yeah,
probably
he
gonna
was like,
die.
you could
Yeah.
see like the hope, you know, like the despair, the determination, like all of it. You could see, and then he like, yeah, I thought that was cool. And then you could also see like Connor, you said that like, you know, like the two characters were different. Like I agree, like
Yeah,
especially
like with
there.
that first conversation where they're
Yeah.
like walking through the trench.
He's like,
and they're
no,
talking-
you know, think about this. Like, you know, like, come on, we're not gonna make it. There's no way. Like, we're gonna go up there. Are you crazy? And then like,
Well,
I just
they
thought
were
that-
different, maybe for sure, but also like there wasn't really an even way to compare them because he had his like brother he was worried
yeah,
about.
no, exactly. Yeah, so it's just different
Yeah,
perspectives.
they just
which
had
I
different
liked,
things on their plates basically.
yeah. And if it's okay, you know, I wanted to move on from that and kind of
Well-
get to the. So I'm sorry. Did you want to say?
Well, I
something?
just want to say one thing before we move on from that scene, which is that scene where they're talking and they're walking along the trench trying to find the guy who can like show them where to go is like obviously before that, when we had gotten them going to like the general's like area or whatever, you see it's like all one shot, but then like this conversation where they're like walking through the trench and talking about this is like, I think when you really realize like, oh man, like this is an intense one shot movie. Like they put so much effort into like creating these trenches and like
It was
getting
crazy.
this long take and this conversation that I think really actually helped with the immersion. Like you're like there with them walking through the trench, like anticipating having to go on this journey, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and that kind of segues into what I was actually going to bring up next, which was, you know, I mean, one could argue that, you know, there were only really 2 scenes in this movie, because, I mean, like, right, like, how many times did they really cut the camera? I mean, this is like a major theme in this movie. I don't know if Connor, like, you might remember better if this was like a theme leading up to the movie, like people knew it was gonna be like this, or if it was like, whoa, like we went and
I
saw
don't
this,
remember.
and now it's it's like a one take, like this is crazy, or like, or
I don't
one
remember if
shot.
people knew going like
Yeah.
before it came out, but definitely when it was in theaters, people were talking about like,
No,
oh,
for
you should go
sure.
see it because it's so beautiful,
So
da-da-da-da.
unique
It's
and
like-
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to talk about that because like I think, I mean, Connor, you might know a lot more about this than Greg and I, but to me it looked like they only really cut the camera. It only looked like to the viewer they cut it one time when he got knocked out falling off that staircase and it went black. I mean, I couldn't really think of another time where it looked obvious to me where they would cut the camera. I mean, I don't know if like, are they able to do that? Like are they able to make it look so smooth, or did they actually shoot that in one?
like,
Did they actually shoot all that?
Yeah, I'll try and so one example that I can think of that's kind of earlier in the movie of when they cut is well, we can actually talk about this scene if you
Okay.
guys want to, because I thought it was a pretty good scene. But when they're crossing no man's land at the beginning,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And they get into this like huge crater, and the camera goes down over the water as they're like crossing the side of it, right? And then they come back up to the other side, and it's like this is just before like the music's kind of swelling, and it's just before they're about to like jump in on the German trench,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he looks over at the like dead head next to him, and the camera like focuses on that dead head right there,
Okay.
and then refocuses back on him kind of as he's climbing up, and then basically the camera stays there as he climbs out of the camera's view, and then the camera moves kind of like across, like it kind of rises up out of the crater to like see them. You see them from the side view again, but when it like rises up out of the crater, it like crosses in front of a pile of dirt, and they could easily cut it right there because there's no like human frames in the figure that they have to match up or anything right there. They could just set up the camera exactly where it was on that dirt pile again and then reshoot it.
Okay.
Or another example is when he was getting out of the truck when they got it stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
You know, it shows him standing up, and then the camera kind of like it's still on him, but it goes across someone else's body. So like there's a body between him and the camera really quickly, and it's kind of like dark. They
Interesting.
probably cut it there too, you know.
But did they do like so they did end up doing the like longer than ordinary like scenes, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, I'm
a
sure
lot
that
of
they
it
had
was-
like
Alright.
I'm sure that trench scene at the
Yeah.
beginning where they're talking is all one take.
It's
When
all- yeah.
when they're crossing no man's land, I think that's all one take as well.
Mm.
Or yeah, one shot rather.
Yeah, sure.
One take would be
Yeah.
like they just do it first try. But
Yeah.
or and like the end when he's like running to find Colonel Mackenzie. I'm sure that's one shot as well.
Oh yeah, and we can talk about that as well. But that is really cool. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought about it, but I personally thought like a lot of these movies, like I've mentioned to you guys before, that I think Dunkirk is also really cool, and we actually saw this
Oh,
together a few years
yes.
back, and it's very unique in the terms like in the way it was made, in the way it was just, you know.
We see that together.
Yeah, we saw that together. Very, very little dialogue, you know, and it's just very unique in that way. And I like I like a lot of these
Okay.
movies like that are very like take a very unique approach and like they pull it off. I think this movie definitely pulled it off. I thought it was really neat.
And also, you bring up the point of there being little dialogue, which I have a couple things about that. Number one is if it made it feel like more real to me that they weren't always talking.
Are you
know
talking
what I
about
mean?
this movie? Oh, I was
This movie in particular.
I was referencing Dunkirk, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
This
I would
movie as
say,
well, yeah,
I
there
would
wasn't
say
a
that
ton.
for given the length of this movie, I would say that there's not a ton of talking.
Yes.
But I mean, granted, there's not a ton of time to talk when he's like alone for at least 30% of it.
Mm.
But when they did talk, it was like meaningful conversations
was,
too,
yeah.
right? It wasn't like
filler.
yeah.
Okay,
Or like,
Greg. I'm sorry.
yeah. Go ahead. Ask Greg what you're gonna say.
No, I was just gonna ask Greg what he thought about the whole like kind of like one angle, one shot camera.
Yeah.
No, I was actually going to respond. Well, that was fine. It wasn't as meaningful to me as the just like the meaningful conversation, like because a lot of times like I feel like there's useless conversation.
Yes.
Do you feel like it wouldn't have made a difference to you if they had filmed it normally, like as if like just with regular shots that cut every 10 seconds, 4 seconds?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
I think it didn't really. Well, I think it might have kept my attention more, I guess.
Really, you felt like you got bored with the long shots sometimes?
Maybe a little bit, but the movie wasn't boring though. So like, I don't know how it would, like, if it was another movie, like maybe it'd be different. But
it was more like the content made up for
yes,
the kind of, you felt like the camera angles weren't engaging sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the length of it.
That's very fair. I thought that was okay though because it made it more like immersive or real.
Yeah.
I
could see that perspective though.
That's why with this movie it works.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, because you always gotta like, and almost kind of mimic the whole like, when you're going through enemy lines and stuff, you always have to be alert and like you can never like lose focus. So I felt like that kind of like was appropriate for that kind of movie.
I also think that sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Greg, but I think that another reason that the one shot style works for this movie is because they want to get a certain emotion across, and those emotions can like be like emphasized by like dragging out, not dragging out, but like keeping you like looking at something for a long time. Like for example, a lot of the scenes that the one shot nature of it and the immersion kind of part of it helps to like really draw out that suspense, because you can feel like you're just sitting there with them waiting for the like conflict,
like when they were going up the
happen.
ladder, when they were going out of the trench, right? When they were going to cross into it.
Yeah. Or another thing is like they want you to just sit on the emotion of like what's just happened, and they just want you to take it in with the character. Like when Blake dies and you just sit there with Schofield for a second.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think the lingering, I mean, I could see it being like maybe a little bit disinteresting sometimes, but I thought that it was mostly trying to like put you there with the characters and like feel the same emotions that they would be feeling, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that like it's a unique perspective, especially like when you mentioned when Blake died, right? Because like normally in a lot of stuff you'd see someone die and you'd see the initial emotion, you'd see the initial reaction and stuff, but then it would cut like a few seconds, or like maybe like a little bit after. But this
Yeah.
you stay with them the whole time, right? And then there's the people that
Yeah.
come and move the body, you see all that. So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and you see how he's reacted to his friend's death for like the ensuing like 10, 15 minutes afterwards,
Yeah, you
which
see him
like
on the
you don't
you see
normally
him on
see in
the
a movie,
truck.
right?
Yeah, right, you see him on the truck
Yeah.
just sitting quiet while they're all telling stories. Yeah, no, yeah, totally. Um,
Mhm.
I wanted to move on, just progress through the movie a little bit, if that's okay. And I wanted to go to when they get to that German bunker, right? So when they reach that,
Yeah,
first,
after they've crossed no man's
yeah,
land,
yeah,
which
first,
is by the way one of the most suspenseful scenes I think of the whole movie when they're like
yeah, I mean,
crossing no man's
like the
land.
whole time when they're just, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
also when maybe I missed something, maybe I looked away for a second, but how did Schofield, he fucking like ruined his hand on that barbed wire like that?
Oh, he all of a
Caught,
sudden just caught it, but then
yeah.
when he had to slam when he shoved it into the dead, I was like, oh,
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, dude.
Ugh.
He was like grabbing a pole for Blake to get by, and then he let go of the pole, and the barbed wire like caught his hand on the way back, I think.
but then when his
That was
open wound went into the flesh of the, I was
Yeah,
like,
and
God.
when I saw it in the theaters, I was like physically repulsed.
Oh,
I
that
was
really
like,
bothered me. That was like the most repulsive thing. Like in the, oof.
that was
yeah.
nasty.
But like that seems like, like that's just something that they had to deal with, like I don't
Yeah,
know.
I totally agree. I thought it was I don't know, I thought it was again like very real, and I thought the German bunker was like it was great,
That
by
was
the way.
good.
It was
Another comment I have on this movie that was very
yeah.
good is the corpses. Like
Mm,
But yeah.
the like how it showed like it really like I remember the camera always tried to bring attention to like the corpses even if they were buried like trying
Yeah,
to
the
like show
death.
like the disintegrating bodies and stuff like
yeah, sure.
I mean, if we're talking about like, the corpses and like what we see on screen, like everything about like the look, like they made it seem like, it is World War One, and like there's dead bodies, there's
Yeah.
shells everywhere, there's like broken towns, there's these
Great
trenches.
sets.
Yeah, great sets, and great props too. I think that's what I support Greg in saying that.
I mean, yeah.
yeah
I mean, I agree as well. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that whole like scene though when they're going into the German bunker, right? They go into the tunnel down there and they go look at, like the bunk room, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And then the rat.
they
The
got canned
rat.
dogs
Yeah, canned dog food. And then the rat interfered.
Yes.
So, I mean, I
so
don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that? I mean,
Well, what was actually in the bags that were
I
hanging
don't
from
I
the
don't I don't
ceiling?
I don't know. I mean, he said you didn't like you don't want to know or something. You're like
He
how
said,
like
he said
how
like, what do
hungry
you
do you
think's
need
in
to
the
be to
bag?
ask that or
And
something?
he's like, yeah, you're not that hungry.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
yeah I don't either
I mean, I guess we don't want to know though.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But
I thought that whole scene was I thought the whole scene was really good.
yeah,
Like
I
I thought it
mean,
was really good.
the only thing that I didn't like, I'm not gonna say I didn't like it, but the only thing that
They could
was
have done better.
that they could have done better was,
Yeah.
I think the rat was clearly you know more animated than the rest of the, like I could tell the rat was like CGI when I'm watching the rat.
oh I couldn't
I could.
Really?
Yeah.
usually I have an eye for that
Huh.
Interesting. When I was in the theaters, I didn't think about that. But when I was watching it now, I was like, wow. I think it was like, I think the rat itself looked real, but it was like the movement of the rat
Maybe.
that threw
Okay.
me
Maybe.
off. And I was
no it
like,
was a
whoa.
trained rat they trained the rat
Listen, I don't think that they should have used a real rat, but I just thought like, and it didn't take
Okay.
away from the movie. I'm just saying that when I was watching it, I was like, oh, the movement of that rat is kind of weird. And so, yeah.
Okay.
that's a good point I mean I
guess.
did not see that but good eye
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I just thought the emotions in that whole scene, like like the initial blast, you're with I think who are you with? You're with Blake right there, and he's okay. He's okay, and then you hear a voice over to the right, which is Schofield, and then you realize he's just buried under a bunch of rocks, and he's
I
just
know.
it was just so real. He's searching for him. He couldn't find him. I thought maybe he would die. I was like, no way. And then he found him, and that whole scene where he was like he couldn't see, like
Yeah.
the amount of like imagine how scary that is. Like I was like I wrote that down. Like that's so terrifying. It's all
I
collapsing
know.
around you. Yeah, you know, your friend asks you to jump. Like you have to jump. It's like you can't see.
Oh,
You have to. Oh,
You
it's
could like
so.
feel the danger. Like
Yeah,
you could feel
exactly,
like
exactly. And
well,
I
that
thought that
was the
it was
scene.
so good.
That was the one scene where I put myself in the character's shoes like the most, like felt the most fear was like the just jump, just imagining being like
Yeah.
yeah.
blind and like just like being
Yeah.
like, okay, like I have to do this, but I really don't want to, like just like the utter fear.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was. I mean, it was definitely extremely scary. I don't know. I mean, Connor, do you have anything else to say about that?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that the initial blast I think was like a great moment also because like
Hmm.
you see the drop and then you barely have like a second to process it before the wrap like triggers the tripwire.
It was very quick.
Yeah, and it's not like a traditional like movie explosion where they like built it up for a couple seconds and you see the character's face. It was just like it just happened, which is like how it happened for them. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
I
It's
agree.
kind of funny how the rat decides to trigger it right when they're there.
Yeah, I know. It's like
Yeah.
really. Like
Yeah.
how long were the
I mean,
rats
there are a
there?
couple coincidences. You kind of have to have some coincidences for a
And I
movie like
suppose to be
this.
fair, the Germans like they were there pretty recently. Like we saw like the hot coals. Like they were still like they were still.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they were there.
I mean, they were in that town when he came to Akust. I mean,
But also, like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
would the Germans just be letting the rats run free? Like, and like,
you saw rats back in the English trenches too. I'm pretty sure.
I know,
Yes,
but it's
yes, you did.
like setting up dangerous things. Like,
I know what you mean.
don't know.
I suppose the Germans didn't care, right? Like they didn't care if a rat triggered
yeah,
it.
historically, they haven't cared about a lot of things.
Okay.
That is
Historian over here.
I mean that is true. Hey, he is not wrong.
A certain group of them, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that scene later. I wanted to I mean unless we have any other thoughts on this whole like German base scene, I was gonna move on to like another like a scene a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once they leave the mine shaft,
Yeah.
then he's like, "Why did you have to pick me?" And they kind of have a little argument about that.
Mm,
And he's like,
But
"I didn't know what I was picking you for." You know,
yeah.
like,
I mean I think I think he was just mad that he almost died. Like, he was just like
yeah, no,
like,
he
just
was.
shocked kind of react. Yeah. I
He
think
was.
that was okay. And then we get to them they're just walking, right? And I think we have Schofield like talking. He talked briefly about like it was a very serious conversation, then very light conversation.
Yeah.
Like
Well, first they
it
talked
was
about.
very
First, he told the
down.
story about like the guy who got his ear bitten off. By a
Yeah, and I
rat.
thought it was funny that out of all the stories they were talking about, like they're laughing about a guy getting his ear bit off by a rat. Like that's what cheers him up. Like a
Yeah.
guy getting his ear bit off. Like, haha.
But that seems like a war
know.
story, right? Like,
No,
I
it
don't know. It
does.
seemed like.
But yeah, it does. I suppose. I just find it kind of sad that out of all the stories they have, like the best one they can think. You know what I mean? But I do
Mhm.
want to say that I feel like this movie showed that like from the soldiers' perspective, like how young these guys are, like stories just got them through like the war. Like you could see like when they're in the truck, the guy's like, "Oh, keep going with your story," and they're telling stories and
Oh yeah,
like
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of cool to see. You just see
yeah.
Yeah.
these guys have to get through it too, and like
Yeah.
they needed like some semblance of calm and fun.
Well, and then they had that conversation about how Schofield got a medal,
Yes.
doesn't have it anymore, and he like traded it away.
Yeah, he got rid of the medal. Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. I never understood why. I never understood what happened with that. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what ended up happening with the
I-
medal. Connor or Greg, do you know at all? Like what was the deal with that? It seemed like he didn't want it. Like he seemed
Well,
like he
it
thought
just
it
seemed
was
like he
useless.
just thought it was pointless.
Yeah, okay. So he just
Well,
thought
I
it was
think-
pointless, right? That's pretty much all it was.
Well, from his perspective, right? He's seen I think the experience that he got the medal from,
Mm.
like, was a place where like was a time when he lost a lot of friends and people, and he was like, and he would rather have those people in his life
Yeah.
than have a medal, right?
Sure.
And so that's when he made that remark, and he said something like, always have a medal, cheerful will. Or I don't know if he said that or someone else said it, but
Yeah, well, I think also in that
There's-
conversation
for
was
sure or something. I don't know.
well,
Somebody
yeah,
said
'cause-
that at the beginning, I think.
Okay, maybe. Because I also know he was talking about the medal. He was also talking about like how like because I think he went back home for a time, and like it was really hard
Yes.
because he said he was also like talking about that around that time, and he's talking about how like
Yes.
going home is really it's not worth it when you know you have to go back out and you're probably gonna die. And I just thought like
Yes.
I don't know, like did he have to go home to get the medal? Is that what kind of what
Well, I
happened? Or
think he went home, right? Like it was just like leave. Like he just had leave, I
okay,
think.
okay, so he just happened
And
to have
then
like some leave. Okay.
yeah,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. We didn't really get too much into that, but like it wasn't
right.
like we didn't get that much into
But
it.
but it's especially interesting, right? Because earlier in the movie, like at the very beginning, he said something about like his leave got canceled and like it's not worth going home or something. Like at the very beginning of the movie, he said something like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, he did. He said that
And
multiple times. Yeah.
yeah, and then at the end of the movie, like he looks at his like the pictures of his family. Like not to jump too far ahead, but like it's just interesting when he like looks at his family at the very end, like knowing
Are
like what
you?
he said earlier about like how hard it is to go home.
Mhm.
Did he? I thought. When did he do that? Because the only thing I remember was he looked at the picture of Blake's family. I thought
No,
that
that was
was the
his
picture.
family.
Oh, it was
At the
okay.
very end.
Because I thought he gave it to Blake to hold. Because wasn't he holding like a picture?
Well, he did give, but when you see Blake's picture, there's like four people, like two sons and a mother
Yeah.
and
Okay.
father.
Okay. Then
But
maybe
then
I
he's
just
looking
don't.
at like a woman and then a woman and a child,
Yeah. Okay.
And then also he doesn't answer the woman in the
Yes.
bunker when she's like, "Do you have children?"
Yeah. But yeah, he didn't answer that. But I wanted to talk. What did I want to talk about next?
That
We
was just a
moved on
roundabout
to.
way of saying like I thought it was a good conversation when they were talking about the medal
Yeah, I mean, I
because
thought
you
the
could.
conversation was okay, and I thought it was. I mean, I know Greg. It was
I
definitely
didn't
at
pay
some
attention
point.
to it as much.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
was
know.
like bored by it.
Yeah, I know it's definitely like a little bit more on the boring side, but I feel like a movie like this, I think it's okay to do that just because they want to make it seem like somewhat pretty realistic,
Oh,
and they
wait,
don't
what
want
did you
all.
think was boring, Greg?
Oh, just the whole metal
Oh,
conversation. Like
interesting.
I like I know why it was there and stuff. I just didn't really like necessarily find it.
I liked it because I thought it got let me know more about like Schofield's like attitude and his like the way he looks at things and stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like by the end of it, like personally, for me, I don't think it was important for me to get to know him because it was very much like not about like it was just about the mission. Like I felt like.
Interesting. I
Interesting.
think it was important because like it goes towards his motivation, right? Like
Oh, I think his motivation changes. I would argue.
right,
Yeah.
because but like it kind of that conversations like that kind of establish how he views the world and the war and like who he is, and I think that gets radically changed when Blake dies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think well, yeah, of course, and I think that when Blake, I mean, we can talk. So I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about like this whole thing that transpired. So they like after all this dialogue, they walk up on like what's seeming like an abandoned like house and like farm,
Yeah.
I suppose.
That was
Um,
probably one of the slower scenes I thought when they're like searching to the house and they don't find
yeah,
anything.
I mean, I thought there was gonna be people there because like we see one cow alive and you see like milk that was like just there in
It's
like the
interesting.
bucket.
It was
I
interesting that
thought
like
someone was gonna be there, but no one
Yeah,
that
was.
what are
was
you
the
gonna say,
one
Greg?
place. That was that one place that he said, "I don't like this place." That
Oh
was the
yeah,
and he said that, which was interesting. I wonder
Yeah,
why.
yeah,
It was just a rustic
I,
farm. Like,
Yeah, I thought maybe like the place reminded him of like home or something, or and like
yeah.
it
It's
didn't
like it was a
wanna.
very home-like place in the midst of all this
Yeah,
destruction
I
and
think
stuff.
so, and I don't think he wanted to be reminded of that like while he was at war. I think maybe that was why.
hmm.
But yeah, I want to talk about that whole thing because that was insanely unlucky, by the way. That the singing British planes shoot down the German plane, and the plane comes right towards them.
Listen, it's a movie. It
Oh
has
my.
coincidences, all
That
right?
is, I know. No, I'm not saying it's like bad. I'm just saying that's really unlucky. Like that's so
Yeah.
unlucky that it comes like right there.
Well, what's even crazier is that that's how he dies. He gets stabbed by the pilot.
I know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to
And they
talk about
save the
that.
pilot
Like,
too, right? They drag
yeah,
him out.
yeah. I wondered why they saved him. Like what?
I think it's just because there's a person like burning to death
I
there.
suppose, but Schofield was right. Just kill the guy. Just put him out of his misery.
Yeah, but
Right?
like I don't.
You know.
I think I would still drag him out. Like I don't think that I would leave him to die in the
No.
fiery inferno, right? Because that's like the
Yeah.
worst when you can smell a burning human and like you can hear them screaming, right? Like
No, yeah.
it's
I
an
mean,
awful way to
I think
die.
Schofield was right. I mean, clearly he was at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
We should have just they should have
put him
just
out of
killed
his
him.
misery. Yeah.
But I guess
Well, don't stand right next to him.
I
That's-
know. Well, no, he was trying to help the guy because I think he was hurt.
Yeah.
You know.
You could really
Yeah.
see his like naivety there, and like
Yeah, I was saying like Blake, like he was very like, I don't know. I feel like
he was just young. Right? He was just young and inexperienced.
we
And
never, to be
so
fair,
caring
we
too.
never saw him in like an actual like battle or like like an enemy interaction type experience until that point. And so I guess that was the first time we saw that. So I suppose that makes sense. But yeah, that I was sad about that. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
I was really
I mean, when I
surprised.
saw it in the theaters, I was like, when Blake died, I was like, what? I thought he was the main character, right? Like
Same,
that's what I thought.
yeah. I was surprised. I was sad. I remember looking at the water when he's getting the water. I'm like, geez, that water's filthy. Like that's nasty. And then he turns around and you see like he's like, oh no, stop. And you see like it was just I like that. It was like it was very
I
sad.
thought
but
he was telling him to
was totally
stop.
real.
We don't need the water.
Yeah, I thought he was like stop
know?
about something else. But then like they turn it around and you see him like stabbing him like, ugh. Yeah, that was I don't know. I thought that actual scene
Yeah.
was good. I think it was a little
And
slow
then
beforehand, but
and then he goes over and he kills a German, right? And he's trying to like
that
and
was
then
sad. That whole scene was sad.
when he's trying to help him, he's trying to help Blake. He's like, no,
Yeah.
we got to stop the bleeding. Like, come on, we got to get stand up, and he just can't, you know.
I know, and I thought that scene was good because like you could see the whole transformation, right, of like what was gonna happen. It's like, it starts out like, all right, Blake's gonna be fine, all right, he got stabbed in like the stomach or the
Yeah.
abdomen or something, and we'll stop the bleeding, he'll be okay. And then it kind of slowly transforms into like, oh wait, like he really doesn't like want to get up, or like he can't get up, or like the bleeding won't stop, or like it's getting worse.
Yeah.
I
I think that was one of the best scenes in the whole
yeah,
movie.
because you could see like the whole like just everything like slowly change. I don't know. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it was like a gradual like change from where they were, but like with their cheery conversations about the cherry blossoms to now he's dead, and like you watch it all happen, right?
Oh, and I
Oh.
also yeah.
Oh,
Greg-
the cherry blossom symbolism. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And also, I liked when Blake was dying and he's sitting there and he's like, his face is getting all pale and everything. And you can tell at that point, you could kind of tell he was probably gonna die, which is sad. But you
Yeah.
see, and he goes to Schofield. Is like, am I dying? And then Schofield like looks like he like
He's thinking about it,
Thinks
right?
for a
He's like, how
second.
should I answer?
yeah, he thinks for a second, and then he looks at him. He's like, yes, you're dying. Like he's like, yeah. And I thought that was interesting. Just like you could see, like the actor did a great job. You could like see him like thinking about it. Like, what should I
Yeah.
say? Like
Both
right?
actors did a fantastic job in that scene.
They
you know?
did. They really did well. So I thought that scene was very good. I mean, Greg, I don't know if you had anything else like about that scene.
Now it was very touching.
Yeah,
Very,
thought
I
it
get
was very good.
emotional. I'm a very emotional. It's like
Yeah.
I tend to be more emotional.
Mm.
I'm a more emotional man.
Yeah.
And so of course, that jerks some tears.
I know.
Not as much near the end. Not as much as near the end, but still
Okay.
some tears.
Yeah. No, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely their goal. So I thought they did a really good job with that. It was very sad.
Yeah.
And then we get right. Then like these British show up. I suppose they're going to reinforce another area, and he
Yeah.
gets picked up by them. And we talked about that a little bit, but they get the truck stuck. I don't know if Connor or Greg, or if either of you want to talk about like that briefly at all. Like,
I mean, that's
I thought
you
you could see his pain, like his anger, sadness. Like he like needs.
yeah,
to
but
get
you could
there
also see his
before
like determination. That point where he's like, I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah.
He's resolved to that now.
Yep. No, exactly. I thought it was good. It was really good because you could see all his emotions right there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then they dropped him off pretty quick. Like they dropped him off pretty quick thereafter.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of left him in like a pretty much a war zone. It ended up being like they drop him off. He walks over to that bridge that's like sunken in the middle, and he starts walking across.
That's why they dropped him off, right? Because they
they
can't go
dropped him
across
off
the
right
bridge.
there. Yeah, but
Because
like
they can't go across the bridge, so but
it
that's
was
where he has
just-
to go, right?
it was just kind of funny because like immediately he starts getting shot at, and
Yeah.
that was unfortunate.
But it was only one German, right? So I'm guessing it was just like a scout or
Also-
something,
when he was shooting at
Right.
him, like I don't want to go like talk about it so much again, but like I like the emotions, like the deep breaths, like like he's getting ready to turn.
Yeah.
And he knows like, all right, I could get shot like in the face here.
No, the acting was very spot on.
I was watching with my mom and she's like, "Stop breathing so loud. He's gonna know where you are."
I
And
thought
that's my mom does
I
too.
thought he shot the German in like I thought he popped them.
He
Didn't
did. But he wasn't dead. He was injured.
But he couldn't move. Why go up there and explode? Oh my, yeah. but he exposed himself, and then he ended up getting. Did he get shot?
He got shot in the helmet, right? And
Okay,
the
I wasn't
bullet didn't.
sure. I wasn't sure where he got shot because I know like he wouldn't just fall back, but
No,
he ended up
I
getting
think
shot.
it just, yeah, he got shot in the helmet and it knocked him over and hit his
Okay.
head.
Yeah, because then he hit his head and he was out for a while. And that
Right.
was that was like the one time like for sure where I could see that they had cut it and restarted it. But like
Yeah.
that was nasty when he woke up, by the way. Like it's just like it was also like real, a lot of like the
That was really weird.
gore. Yeah, it was weird, right? Like he wakes up and like like imagine being that though. Like you wake up and like you're just laying at the bottom of this like it's so yeah, it was so bad.
Yeah.
Um
Uh,
but yeah, and then where do we go from there? And then he has to start like running, right? To go
right, because the Germans are, I think they're sending up flares to try and see if the U.S. are gonna, or not the U.S. Sorry, the English are gonna attack them. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, because it was very bright. Like those were really bright
Yeah.
flares.
And you could see he would like hide when it was light out, and then when the flare died down, he would run, and then he would like hide again. You know.
Yeah. Also, can I say some of these soldiers have pretty bad shots, if I'm being honest. All right. Sometimes he was in like an alleyway, a straightaway shot, and they're
Yeah.
like,
No.
and then they,
You have to remember, these are probably just like boys that they've recruited or forced to.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
And it's actually really hard to shoot those weapons, especially those are older ones.
I'm
Then
sure those
maybe-
rifles were less accurate than you
Then
might.
maybe I should applaud Schofield for the beautiful shot he had on the German who
Yeah.
killed Blake.
But also like all of them were kind of running and firing from the hip, right? None of them really like.
Like, stop and
Scoped, you
stand
know?
and scope.
Because you
in and
can't let them
everything.
go. You got to catch them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose. And yeah, that's fair. And then we get to right, I believe he ends up sliding underneath like a building,
a
which is
li-
very like a little he goes in like a little like
Okay, I thought that was a little,
alcove
Yeah.
underneath a building, which
that was a little convenient.
that was really smart. Hey, I'm gonna be honest, that was a smart play right
I
there.
think he's saying it was. I think he's saying that it was like convenient that he stumbled upon like a woman and.
No,
a
I know
baby.
that's what Greg's saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
No, not that. I'm saying it was
okay.
really convenient that he was running so fast and so fearful that he had enough time to all of a sudden see a door that doesn't really look like a door, but it happened to be.
He was in fight or flight mode, Greg.
That's right,
okay?
Greg. Okay, his senses were heightened. Okay, he was aware of all of his surroundings. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that scene with that he had with the French lady.
Yeah.
Very sweet. I thought they were gonna have an affair. Just saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
at that
until-
point,
until
you
you
don't
could
really
see the
know that
baby.
Schofield has a family, though, right?
Yeah, and you didn't like she had that child over there. That
Yeah, and you're kind of like, oh, they're like a little family, like.
yeah, I thought that scene was really good. Like I thought like they did a good job breaking up like the some of the intensity with like more calm scenes, and I thought this
Yeah.
is one. This might have been like the best calm scene.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. Like you could see like the language barrier, and then you could see like
But you could also
Yeah.
like believe it was believable like the way that they were communicating, like they could kind
She
of
was
understand
French,
each
wasn't
other's
she?
language.
yes,
She was French.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was like
Okay,
a
this is a
super
stupid
believable
question.
scene. They might
This is a
interact.
stupid
too.
question. What country were they in?
weren't they in
They were in
there?
France. They were
Yeah.
in France.
Yeah, she was
Okay,
French,
right.
Greg. Yeah.
The city, the town is called Acouste, so I'm assuming it's French.
Yeah, and you could hear her say like merci and stuff. Like she was
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you could hear her. But yeah, I thought the
Mhm.
whole scene was good. Like, like you could just the emotions displayed by all the actors and actresses in this movie were really good. Like you could just see like
Yeah.
like at first like the whole hesitation and like the like I don't know. It was just all of it. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
And
And I
and then he's
thought-
like she's like stay, and then he's like I'm sorry, I have to go. Like
Yeah.
Poor woman. I feel bad for her.
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also he like he's like gives us all his food to them, which
I know.
I mean, first of all, my first thought was like, oh, now you don't have any food for yourself. But then I thought like,
But he was gonna
oh,
be-
now you'll be lighter. You can travel faster too. You know?
Well, and he's either gonna die or he's gonna get to the English camp in
Yeah.
time, right? So like,
Yeah.
might as well. But yeah, and then I suppose he just kept running, and as she said, he ended up getting chased down, and he jumped into the river.
Yeah. Oh, and also he ran into that German who he
Oh,
wanted to be
yes.
quiet, and he like choked it.
We can talk about that. Yeah.
I just thought that was like, he's
Oh,
he's like killing a guy with his bare hands, which you know.
yeah.
That's something.
I hate that stuff.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like, it's one of those things. Like, it's so tough. Like he just had to,
Yeah. And then it's not like he was just killing just to kill, right? Because then there was that drunk German that he didn't even bother with. He's
Yeah,
like,
he just
and
shouldered
I'm just
into
gonna
him.
run.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and then yeah, he ends up running, and they miss all their shots, and he ends up jumping into the river. And honestly, when like they showed like the down pan to the river, and he fell down the waterfall, and you don't see him for a good like I would say almost 10 seconds or so. Part of me was like, all right, what if he's just dead here? And it's just like failed.
That was also a cut when he jumps
Okay,
into the
that would
river.
make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
It's like they just keep going. He falls in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he
I
goes
mean-
down the rapids and he's getting bashed all around and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And
it's,
then what? He ends up getting out of the river.
well, he goes. Well, he's
Right.
like holding onto a log, and he's like,
Yes, I
He's,
remember
like,
that. And
kinda-
he almost fell asleep in the river.
yeah, because he was so
Oh
tired.
my.
I think,
Yeah, he's
right?
been asleep for so long, or been awake for so long, I should say. Yes, that
Yeah.
was yeah, that was interesting, and also another very real thing. Like movies almost never show like when they're like, you know what I mean, like when someone's like been awake for so long that they don't normally just like fall asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah. that was
And then there's the cherry blossoms are all like
Mm,
falling in the river and
Oh,
stuff.
that was so. I got emotional in that part.
yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
And that was like a reinvigorating thing for him, right? He was like, I gotta do this, right? He
Yes,
was-
yeah, he saw it and he's like, okay, let's go. And then he gets to that camp, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
and there's that
Well,
guy. that's-
okay, before he gets to the camp, I just want to say, like, when he crawls over the dead bodies in the river as he's getting out,
Oh, that was so.
that was so
Oh, yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
it was
And then he
so
like
nasty.
sobs. He's like sobbing when he gets out there too.
I know,
when he
because it's nasty. Oh, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
That's so
Yeah.
gross.
Oh, that was yeah. Like, is that really the only place he could have gotten out of the river? Like, really?
I think that his plan initially was to just use the log to get out, and he didn't know there was dead bodies there.
Yeah, it was tough. But yeah, so I guess now
He goes
we
to the
get
camp.
onto the camp and we hear the guy singing, which I guess he was trying to like inspire the troops, I suppose, right before they go over
Yeah.
to fight. And like he looks so distraught, he's up against like the
Yeah.
tree, and he's like he thought he.
But
failed
also
and
for
everything.
him, it's like a moment of like rest. He's like,
Mhm.
you know, he just gets to sit there and appreciate this guy singing, which I thought was a pretty beautiful moment. I thought. I don't know about you,
was.
Greg.
Hey, Greg, what'd you think?
No, I did. I actually originally thought that that was the brother singing.
Yeah, same. I did too.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, it's just that feeling of like I have so much to say to all of them, but I'm so exhausted. Like I just can't say it right now. Like I'm almost like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a relief as the viewer too, right? Because you've been going through this with him, and like
Mm.
you're like, I think he's finally there, and you get
Yeah.
to like enjoy this moment of like bliss almost with.
And the only other relief I would argue you've had is when like he was playing with the baby for like a few
Yeah.
minutes, like in the yeah.
right.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean I would agree. And then he realizes it's the correct camp. It's
battalion
right. It's
kinda,
what
yeah.
is it? Is it Commander Mackenzie? I don't remember. Is it
Colonel Mackenzie.
Colonel Mackenzie? I'm sorry.
And then
Sounds
the
very
battalion is called
easy.
the Second
Comes off the
Devons.
tongue easily.
Yeah,
Did you say, Greg?
Colonel Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Sounds very. I don't know. It works.
Yeah.
sure. But then like that whole. I mean, do you guys want to talk about that whole like that whole scene where he's trying to run to get to
Listen.
Colonel Mackenzie? Like the
Listen.
whole thing.
when they say that they are the Devons, that they're the people he's been looking for, and he stands up and he's like, "Where's Colonel Mackenzie?" And then that soundtrack starts right there, that music, and you're like, and I've seen this before, so I'm like, oh man, this is where it gets good, because this is my
Yeah.
favorite part of the movie when he's like,
Yeah, really.
I don't know, I just can't explain. Like, I just love the way this whole scene looks and like
It looks
sounds.
beautiful. Like the whole like was it like saltish? Like the
Yeah,
I don't know
the
what it was.
trench
The trench was like salt or like it was
or
all
sand,
white.
maybe, I don't know. It was
Sand,
weird.
yeah. But regardless.
But yeah, and then he's like asking everybody like, "Where's Colonel Mackenzie?" And he's like trying to find his way through, and it's like almost a parallel to the first scene when they're like talking to
Yes.
each other.
Right.
And he's like trying to get there, and like the music is like swelling, and he's running, and like this is where I think the facial expression also came into big play here too, because then it starts getting shelled, right? And he's
Yeah.
like getting thrown around, and he's just like keeps
I know.
walking, and like I mean I can stop, but like you guys can say what you think of this scene, but.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I thought it was good. I thought like sheesh, this Colonel Mackenzie guy's really far away. But like
It's annoying.
right? Like sheesh, what are you putting yourself on like the back end of the battle? Like where are you hiding? But
I mean,
anyway.
granted, like they there were
It was
like
a long
miles
trench.
and miles of trench, I'm
It was
sure,
a
you
long. It
know.
was a long trench. I know. But the one thing I wanted to point out was like, why was that one general like? He was just crying. Like he was just crying. He couldn't even say like.
Yeah.
I,
He was just
Yeah.
crying. Like
I
what was
think that his
that?
emotions just overcame him, right?
Maybe, I suppose. Yeah, that's real. Yeah, that was
And
just
like it
wild.
wasn't like every soldier was doing that, but I'm sure that there's a soldier every now and then
But
who
like
would
not
do.
even like a soldier. Like it was like he was like a guy that seemed to be in command. You know.
He was a captain, I think.
Yeah, and he
But
was just
also, it's
crying.
like he's human. He's probably seen a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I just thought that
Yeah.
was I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then I liked when he goes out of the trench and he looks at the
Yeah, and
captain.
they're like,
He's like,
and he's
no.
like, Lance
like,
Corporal, what are
"Won't."
you doing?
Yeah, and then he walks out. And he's all like confident, like he stands up, like like
Yeah.
he's not hunched, like crowd. He's just like walking, yeah, or
And
running.
you just see it on his face. I just love his face through this whole scene where he's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then he finally gets there, and they won't let him in.
Well, also when he's like running and they're running, he like runs into a couple of them and they like fall over. I thought that was like realistic and like,
Yeah, no, that was good too. Yeah, I agree. It was all really realistic, like this movie. And then he finally gets to them, right? And they won't let him in. And then he finally, I think, like breaks free and gets in. And Greg, what did you think of Benedict Cumberbatch? As
So different. Like, of course, very British.
Yeah.
His little mustache, his shaved head.
the skunk.
Yeah, it was just weird how they like Colin Firth and Benedict Cumberbatch, Colin Firth more so, like were just like really like accomplished actors.
Mm.
Like they're only used for like 5 minutes. It's just kind of crazy.
well, but
I
they were
know.
like the upper ranks too,
They
It was-
were.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird to see Cumberbatch play like a more like ominous type like character, right? Like he wasn't really like they made it seem like he wasn't all like
He was more like
he was more
kind
intense,
of
I should say. He was more
He was
intense.
kind of a bitter person. I want to
Yes.
say.
Yeah, he just seemed like different from a lot of the characters that he's played. at
Yeah,
least
and
from what
like
I've seen.
earlier in the movie, you had that other guy say to him like, "Make sure there are witnesses because some men just want the fight."
Although he also, yeah, right. He always seems to be a pretty serious character though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I
he's
just
always
thought,
the straight man. He's never like a
Right.
quippy guy or anything.
yeah, I just thought this character that he played was a little more. I mean, maybe I haven't watched enough of Cumberbatch, but like he was more. I don't know. I just thought of it. I kept thinking of like intense and just
He was
like
more like gritty. I want to say.
yeah, like more yeah, gritty would be
Yeah.
a good word, I think.
But I think he did a good job too. Like you could tell he really didn't want to call off the attack.
but he
Like,
knew it was the right call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that whole scene was good. I mean, I don't know if yeah.
And then like yeah, and also like you're watching Schofield and it's like he did it. Like he did his mission.
Yep, he did it. And then he's like, and then it was just kind of abrupt. Like Cumberbatch Mackenzie was just like, okay, that's it. You can go. Like leave. It was just
Yeah.
bye. It was just very abrupt. He's like, all right, that's it. That's
And
the
he also
mission."
made that comment that's like next week we're gonna get the command to attack at dawn.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like
Right.
it reminds you
It
of
echoes
like
the frustration of everyone involved.
yeah,
right?
and it reminds you that this movie, although it's about this journey to save these people, right? There
Also a
was
bigger
still
thing.
this horrible war going on, right? It gives you this big picture, like people are just still gonna die.
Right.
And then, I don't want to stretch it on too long. I wanted to move on to perhaps to me, which was one of the most, if not the most emotional scene in the movie, which was the end when Schofield goes looking for Blake's brother. Although they're both
Yeah.
last name is both Blake, right? So,
Lieutenant Blake.
Lieutenant Blake. So he goes looking for him, and you think maybe he's injured or he's dying or he's dead. And then we finally see him, and he's just fine. He's trying to help the
Yeah.
wounded.
And he's Rob Stark.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Oh my
in the-
gosh.
Yes, Greg. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what in the world? Why do they have Rob Stark and like Tom and his brother? Like, this is so funny as brothers. I thought that was so funny.
Oh, I didn't put that together. Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, and I wanted to say, like, I'm sure Greg has a lot to say, and Connor too. Real quick, I just thought, like, just the acting for when like he realized his brother was dead was just so. It was so. I felt so sad for him, like for both of them
Yeah.
really, and I could feel the pain from Schofield. Like, not really. He didn't know like really what to say, but he knew he should probably say something. Like,
Yeah.
And I just thought it was like this whole movie. I thought
It was a great moment
very-
between two soldiers who don't really know each other,
Yeah, it was very real, and I feel like it's one. Yeah. I just thought it was really well done. I mean, Greg, I know you mentioned you said like was this? I think you said it was the most emotional scene in the movie. Or
Yes, it was.
yeah. Like, what'd you think? You think it was like really well done? Like, it was very sad.
I think it was very well done. You could tell like he just really felt like he could not cry. It was not his place to cry. Like
Yeah.
he was really holding it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both
watching-
actors did a great job. I
Just
think.
watching the emotion on his brother's face though was just like the processing everything and like trying to stay like civilized and ordered and everything. It was
Yeah.
I don't know,
It
Connor.
was
Do you have any?
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Connor. I don't know
No,
anything.
I
or-
mean, no. I think that
No. And then the end as well when he goes back and sits on the tree and falls asleep. I guess.
yeah, watching it the second time,
Yeah.
I wish he would have found the brother faster, because I know he finds the brother, right?
Mm.
And like I get the suspense of like, is he gonna find him? Like, is he on this like is he one of the injured or whatever? But for me, it's like, oh, he accomplished his mission. Like,
So, yeah, just
And
like find
now-
him and I know. What you
yeah, I mean, like, I like the suspenseful bit about like, is he gonna find him? But I just wish it was like a little bit faster. after
What made it
watching
sound like he was gonna be dead.
Yeah,
Yes, they did. They did. They
Yeah.
made it. That's what. Yeah, when he's like, you could find him at like the casualty place or whatever.
otherwise,
Otherwise, and just didn't say anything. Yeah. And then the end, I thought it was kind of like poetic that he falls asleep again
yeah,
on another
he falls
tree.
asleep on the tree.
Kind of a
Or
little cheesy.
does he
Or-
fall asleep?
Does he?
Is he
Okay. Doesn't really mean
even alive again anymore?
what? What?
He could just die right there, you know?
I think that's
No,
I mean,
He'll
it's
be okay.
possible.
it'll
It's
be
possible.
okay. I mean, I guess it's possible because he did have a massive concussion, but
Yeah.
I
I mean, unless
guess
he had like
for
MRSA
internal bleeding
or MRSA or something really bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he just falls asleep though, and I like how he pulls out, like, now that his mission is over, right? He looks at his family.
Yeah, because he realized like, okay, I could go home,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I thought all in all it was really good. I don't know,
Oh
like,
gosh, it was so good.
if it
It was about it was a war movie about saving people, not about
killing people,
Killing
which
people,
is,
yeah.
which is counter to most war movies. Yeah, and that's why like Dunkirk does that as well. It's about saving people. I would argue, Dunkirk.
Yeah, I
as
know
well,
it is.
which
It
is
is,
why I
yeah.
like that one as well. It's definitely different. But yeah, I mean, if that's okay, I was wondering if maybe we could just wrap it up and have each of us give what we thought of the movie, like
Yeah,
give
sure.
give a nice rating of it.
Yeah.
Greg, do you wanna go ahead and start us off here? Give us
Okay.
your rating. What are your like quick thoughts on the overall movie?
Well, I thought it was a fantastic movie, very good. I loved how it wasn't there wasn't anything useless. It was all meaningful. Like the filming, cinematography was just great. The acting was great. Honestly, like I'm not a movie critic at all,
Mhm.
and I'm not a film major or anything. So like,
Listen,
I think
we're
I have
movie
no,
mates, all right? We're casual.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
no right to like critique like technical things, really. So so I don't really have any like problems with it. So I think I'll give it a 92.
Wow. This might be one of Greg's highest rated. I picked a good one here, folks. Wow. I like it. The only one higher, I think The Irishman might have been higher, and then
Yeah.
Highwayman.
No, The
was
Irishman
something.
was not higher.
Yeah. And then Highwayman it was not higher.
No, the only one that was higher I think was Pirates of the Caribbean.
What about Highwayman? What'd you give that?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
I don't remember. It was something pretty high though. Regardless, it's okay. Connor, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. It's probably, I don't want to say it's my favorite movie from last year, because there's one or two that could contend with that. But it's definitely my top 3 favorite movies from last year, and I watch a lot of movies. I really love the whole idea of like this simple story about these like 2 guys just going on a journey. I love stories about journeys anyways. Like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I like how personal this story is, and how it takes on World War I is very interesting also, because you don't typically see World War I movies. You always see these World War II movies and everything.
True.
And I just think I agree with Greg. It looks beautiful. I think that the one-shot style goes really well with the story they're trying to tell. And I think the acting is also fantastic, and the sets are great as well. And I think it's really engaging. It's really suspenseful and emotional. Which when you have like all these things working for the film, I think it can be enjoyed by almost like anyone watching it. You know, if I were to change anything, it would be maybe to cut out a few seconds here or there of different scenes that like I would maybe just like hurry up, like I mentioned towards the end, or just different things like that. But
Sure.
and then the only other thing that this isn't a problem with the movie. It's like, because I don't think that they could have done anything differently to deal with this, but this is just something that I think I should say, which is that in World War One, like they kind of portray in this movie like World War Two, right? Like in World War Two, the Germans are the bad guys, right? They're the Nazis, and the Nazis like did horrible things, right? There was the Holocaust and everything.
Yeah.
But in World War One, like although like the UK was like with the Allies, and so was the US, like we were on the same team and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like the Germans were like bad, right? It's like it was nationalism, and it was just because these dictators were all butting heads. Like the dictator, the Kaiser of Germany wasn't any worse than like the King of England or like the Tsar
Yeah.
of Russia at the time, right? It was more like it was almost like a family squabble. And I think that the way that they portrayed Germans in this was like they dressed that a little bit, like they tried to humanize it, I think, with the little picture.
I don't think
that
they
you
portrayed
see.
them badly. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it was fine. Like you don't even really see that many Germans anyways, but I think that like, you know, I think that you have to treat it differently when you're doing a World War One film, because when in a World War Two film you can pretty expressly show like, oh, Britain's the good guys, whereas in a World War One film, I think you have to maybe just acknowledge that it wasn't like these guys are, which I think they did, because this is a movie about saving people, not about like, you know, trying to defeat the Germans necessarily. Like that is a part of it, but it's more about like saving these guys. So I thought they handled it relatively well. But I just thought that was worth mentioning, that I don't think that most people would pick up on. Like most people would just be like, oh, the Germans are bad guys. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, what'd you think?
I think this movie for me is probably a 95.
Whoa.
There you go.
Greg, listen, I'm not a hard man like you, okay?
Yeah, true.
You deserved it.
We gotta do some bad movies sooner. Movies that one of us really doesn't like. Other than Greg.
I'll give some.
Okay. But anyway, I will go real quick if that's okay. I wanted to say one thing. Just in regards to the World War and everything, which like you do bring up a good point. Although I would argue that you could make a World War II film and still have German soldiers be portrayed as like not bad people, because
you can.
Yeah.
I'm just saying culturally and societally, it's probably more acceptable.
Oh, I mean, sure, it might be more acceptable. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I thought this movie was really well done. I'm glad I chose it. I had never seen it. I thought it was like, you guys said it really well. Everything that you guys said was good. I agree with. I just thought the facial expressions were fantastic. I thought you got to see a lot of the emotion, especially because it's like one camera angle and one take. It was all just really
and you really have to make up for that with the acting, because like there's little room for error with
there's little room for error, and I just really like that, because you got to see the emotions like before and well after like certain events happened, and I really like that. And you got to experience like the ebb and flow of everything with the characters. So I thought that was cool as well, and unique. So, you know, because it was really unique, I mean, I'm gonna give it the same rating that Connor did. I don't want to give it higher than Top Gun just because I love Top Gun, so I can't bring myself to do that. So I'm gonna give it the same rating I gave Top Gun, which is I believe a 95, and I will leave it at that. That was a great movie.
Is that 2 weeks in a row that we've given a movie the same rating, Ryan?
Maybe. What did we give? I don't remember. We gave the Sorcerer's Stone. Was it?
I think I gave it like an 89 or something like that.
Somewhere in the B+ range. Higher than I thought. I remember. But maybe so. But I think that just about does it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great movie. I think next week, who do we have choosing? I think we have Greg.
Greg.
So we'll see what Greg.
Hopefully, he brings up some Division, as he always does.
A controversial film. Yeah, I'm looking
Alexander
forward to it.
Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
quite possibly.
My sister loves that. So Hey, all right. Well, it was great talking about this movie, and we will be back again with another podcast
Yeah,
episode next week. So
we're
thank you
excited
everyone
for
for watching.
our new movie mates
Yes, the next Movie Mates
name.
podcast. Yes, we're looking
Yes.
forward to it. So again, thank you everyone for watching, and we will be back in a week.
Bye.